Now we will develop the importance Bion gave to the ability to tolerate frustration. In order to enter his line of thought, I suggest we try to dive in and imagine the genesis of our sensation of existence. What is it that allows us to begin to feel that we exist, that we are real, we are here, we are present? To do this, it is possible to think about an initial particle, the beginning of a mind that has only just begun to exist, one that has just arrived in the world and does not yet know that it exists. Like the birth of something that doesn't know it has been born yet. It's still completely wrapped perfectly and doesn't need to know it exists, doesn't have enough friction with reality to allow it to feel like it exists, like water within water. It's in a perfect wrapper. Anyone who did water treatment, hydrotherapy, such as a Watsu treatment, and is a person who knows how to surrender, may suddenly feel as if they are completely wrapped and lose the feeling of the body's limits. We sometimes call it the return to the womb. We try to dive into the beginning of this beginning and say that something already exists, but it doesn't know it exists yet, and how it begins to feel that it exists, that it is real in the world. So for this to happen, we can suppose that the difference begins or has to begin to unfold. Something in the perfect wrapper ceases to perfectly coincide with that which began to exist within it. We may call it consciousness or the mind. Bion alleges that from the beginning of our life, we have something called a preconception of a breast, or a preconceived breast. That is, an early sensory, bodily, or mental expectation of receiving a response, a container. It is not only the breast in the sense of receiving the breast, but it is something more extensive than the breast. It is a complete and perfect envelope of sensations. We're born with a certain sensory expectation like this, and we can assume that in the beginning there is a matching response, but at some point, all of a sudden, something starts to not receive this perfect response. We begin to get a certain sense of tension, difference, contraction, or discomfort. To this initial sensation of difference, Bion calls the no breast or the no thing. When Bion said the no breast, one can say that which is not the expected breast. It's not the perfect wrapper that we have a preconception of, that we have some early expectations about, but something different. Bion's language is on the one hand concrete, the no breast, but on the other hand he hints at something broader. So the same feeling of mismatch can also be called the no thing. So the initial feeling of contraction, the initial discomfort, before it can be called frustration, the word of concept frustration does not yet exist in our mind, but as I've mentioned, a collection of raw sensations of discomfort. To that collection of sensations, of beta elements, Bion calls it the no thing or the no breast. Now from Bion's point of view, if the infant has the capacity to remain for a moment with the no breast or the no thing and tolerate it, something in her can grow. Something in her mind grows. Something in the mental apparatus grows. What Bion calls the ability to think develops. The mental apparatus grows. That minuscule initial capacity to stay with some discomfort cannot be exaggerated in words to what extent this momentary permanence is significant for Bion. Based on this capacity, a whole pyramid of concept is built, which Bion then imposed. Alpha function is based on it. Reverie is based on it. The ability to dream is based on it. In another linguistic world, mentalization is based on it. There are all sorts of possibilities. All the possibilities of mental growth are based on the minuscule capacity to remain for a moment in or with discomfort. On the contrary, If you can't stay a moment with it, with that which is uncomfortable, you can't be in contact with it, and you immediately deplete it, you disconnect, you evacuate it. Then other pyramids are based on this inability. Pyramids that are not related to growth, but to degeneration, deterioration, disconnection, and defensive mechanisms. This inability is directly connected to the lack of ability to be in contact with reality, with what actually exists, with the truth. We must remember, when there is no perfect wrapper, there is a lack. That lack is experienced as something. It is not experienced as a void, it is experienced as something that attacks us, that is uncomfortable to us. Then, if we connect with this, with the first class, it can be said that the ability to stay for a moment with the discomfort, with the difference, is related to the ability to be truly in touch with actual experience, since that is what reality brings at the present moment. Reality brings discomfort. This ability allows us to make contact with the truth and with reality. If you can't do this, you can't be in touch with the truth, with existence, with reality, with what's really happening now.